A misdirected letter leads Naomi, a struggling cafe worker, into a heartfelt correspondence with a stranger who understands her pain all too well. But what happens when she learns he's not who he claimed to be? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The small apartment felt especially quiet tonight. Naomi Clark sat at her kitchen table, a blank piece of paper in front of her. The clock on the wall showed it was already past midnight, but sleep wouldn't come. It never did on nights like this. Write to the one who hurt you. Say everything. Then burn it, her grief counselor had told her last week. Naomi picked up her pen. She was tired of crying, tired of feeling stuck. Maybe this would help. She began to write. Dear Jason, it's been 8 months since you walked out. 8 months since you told me I wasn't exciting enough anymore. 8 months of wondering what she had that I didn't. I gave you 5 years of my life. 5 years where I put my own dreams on hold, where I worked extra shifts so you could finish your degree, where I thought we were building something real. The words flowed faster now, tears blurring her vision. And then you left just like that, no warning, just a suitcase and excuses about how we'd grown apart. How you'd found someone who understands you better. The worst part? I still wake up sometimes forgetting you're gone. I reach for you and then remember all over again, but I'm raising myself back up. I have to. Tommy needs me. He's only 19 and trying to get through college. I can't fall apart even when I want to. I'm invisible now. To you, sometimes to myself. The girl who loved poetry and dreamed of owning her own bookstore someday. She's buried somewhere under bills and extra shifts and trying to be both sister and parent to Tommy. I hope she was worth it. I hope when you look at her you remember the cost, Naomi. She read over the letter, surprised by her own honesty. It felt good to say these things, even if only to a piece of paper. She found an envelope, addressed it to Jason's old apartment out of habit, and sealed it shut. Tomorrow I'll burn it, she whispered, placing it in her purse before finally crawling into bed. But the next day was chaos. Tommy needed money for textbooks. The cafe where she worked was short-staffed. By the time she got home, she was exhausted. She grabbed the mail on her way in, absent-mindedly dropping her purse by the door, the sealed letter still inside. The next morning, rushing to work, she tossed the letter into her mailbox without thinking, just wanting it out of her purse. 3 miles away, Daniel Reed stood at the window of his penthouse. The view of the city was breathtaking, but he barely noticed it anymore. The phone on his desk rang for the 5th time that hour. He didn't answer. He hadn't answered a call in months. 4 years ago, he'd launched Reed Tech, a software company. That grew faster than anyone expected. 2 years ago, it went public, making him a fortune. 1 year ago, he'd collapsed during a board meeting, his body finally surrendering to the 100-hour work weeks, the constant pressure, the emptiness that success couldn't fill. The doctors called it severe burnout coupled with anxiety. The business magazines called it a nervous breakdown. Whatever it was, it had left him unable to face the world he'd built. His assistant managed the company now. He received reports, made decisions via email, but face-to-face meetings, interviews. The endless networking, he couldn't do it anymore. The doorman buzzed. "Mail delivery, Mr. Reed." "Leave it at the door," he replied, the same answer he gave to everyone. Later, sorting through the stack of envelopes, he noticed one that didn't. Looked like the others, hand-addressed, no return address. Addressed to a Jason Miller at this address. He almost threw it away. The building had changed owners last year. Whoever this Jason was, he didn't live here anymore. But something about the handwriting made him pause. It looked personal, human. In a world of printed labels and digital communications, it stood out. He opened it. 20 minutes later, he was still sitting in his chair, the letter in his hands. He'd read it 3 times. This woman, this Naomi, had unknowingly sent him the most honest thing he'd read in years. "I'm invisible now. To you. Sometimes to myself." Those words hit him like a physical force. That's exactly how he felt. Invisible, inside his own life. A ghost watching a world he no longer belonged to. Before he could talk himself out of it, he grabbed a piece of his expensive stationery and began to write. To the woman who wrote to Jason, "Your letter came to me by mistake." This address changed hands a year ago. I should have thrown it away. I didn't. I read every word. I wasn't the man you wrote to, but I heard every word. And I think you deserve someone to write back. I don't know you. You don't know me. Maybe that makes it easier to say this. I understand feeling invisible. I understand what it's like when the person in the mirror becomes a stranger. Your Jason made a mistake. People who leave like that are running from themselves, not just from others. Take care of yourself and Tommy, don't disappear completely. A stranger, he read it over, folded it carefully, and slipped it into an envelope. He didn't include a return address. He didn't expect a reply. He just felt compelled to reach out to this woman whose pain had somehow touched something long dormant inside him. The next day, Naomi found the letter in her mailbox. She frowned, not recognizing the handwriting. When she read it, her face flushed with embarrassment, then confusion, and finally, curiosity. Someone had read her most private thoughts, someone she didn't know, and instead of ignoring them, he'd responded with unexpected kindness. "This is crazy," she muttered, but she already knew she would write back. That night, after Tommy had gone to bed, she sat down at the kitchen table again. "Dear stranger, I'm mortified. That letter was never supposed to be sent. It was a therapy exercise that went very wrong, but thank you for your kindness. It means more than you know. I should probably tell you my name is Naomi. I work at a small cafe called Morning Pages. I write poetry that nobody reads. I raised my brother because our parents died in a car accident when he was 12. And yes, sometimes I feel like I'm disappearing. Your letter made me feel seen, even by a stranger. That's something. May I ask why you understand? Not to pry, just to know I'm not alone in this feeling." Naomi, she hesitated before adding her return address, then decided to take the risk. She mailed it the next day. Daniel was surprised when the doorman called about another hand-delivered letter. He opened it immediately, something like excitement flickering through him for the first time in months. He read Naomi's words slowly, savoring them. Then he found himself doing something he hadn't done in a long time, smiling. He wrote back that same day, "Naomi, no need for embarrassment. Sometimes the universe redirects things to where they need to go. Why do I understand? Because success can be its own kind of invisibility. When people see only what you've built, not who you are. When expectations grow until they crush you. When one day you look around and realize you've created a life you can no longer live in. I stepped away. From everything. Some call it hiding. Maybe it is. I like knowing you work at Morning Pages. I like that you write poetry. I like that you're raising your brother. That shows strength, even when you don't feel strong. Tell me about your poetry sometime. Or don't. No pressure, just know someone is listening now." He almost crossed out the initial, then decided to leave it, a small piece of himself offered in return for her honesty. When Naomi received his letter, she read it during her break at the cafe. Her co-worker Lisa noticed her smile. "Good news?" Lisa asked. "Just a letter from a friend," Naomi replied, carefully folding it and tucking it into her pocket. Later that night, she wrote back, "Dear Dee, your words feel like a conversation I've needed for a long time. Isn't it strange? I don't know your name, beyond an initial, your face, or anything about you really. Yet somehow this feels more real than most of my daily interactions. My poetry is about small moments. The way light hits the counter at the cafe early morning. How Tommy laughs when he thinks no one's listening. The feeling of potential when I open a new book. Nothing important, but it helps me remember to notice things. What did you build that people see instead of you? You don't have to answer if that's too personal. Tommy's having trouble with his college applications. He's smart but doesn't believe in himself. Sometimes I wonder if I'm enough for him, if I can be what he needs. Sorry, I didn't mean to dump more problems on you. It's just easy to write to someone who doesn't already have a picture of who I should be." Naomi, the letters continued flowing between them, twice a week, then every other day. Daniel found himself looking forward to them more than anything else in his life. He shared things he hadn't told anyone, how the panic attack started, how terrified he was of returning to his old life, how empty his success felt. Naomi told him about her dreams for a small bookstore cafe, about how she sometimes resented caring for Tommy, then felt guilty for those feelings, about the poetry notebook she kept hidden under her mattress. 3 weeks into their correspondence, Daniel made a decision. He wanted to see her, not to introduce himself. He wasn't ready for that, but just to put a face to the words that had become so important to him. He found morning pages online. A small cafe 10 blocks from his penthouse. He put on a baseball cap and sunglasses, his version of a disguise, and walked there one Tuesday morning. He stood across the street, watching, and then he saw her, a woman with auburn hair pulled back, laughing as she handed a customer their change. Her smile transformed her face, made her eyes crinkle at the corners. Something tightened in his chest. She was real. Of course she was real, but seeing her made everything different, made it dangerous in a way the letters weren't. He walked away before she could notice him watching. That night, he wrote, "Naomi, I find myself thinking about your words throughout my day, about your dreams for a bookstore, about Tommy and his college applications. I've been alone by choice for a long time now, but your letters make me feel less alone. Is that strange to admit? Sometimes I wonder what would happen if we met. Would the magic of these letters disappear when faced with reality? Or would it be the beginning of something new? Just thoughts. No pressure to respond to them." Naomi read his letter at her kitchen table, her heart pounding. She'd been wondering the same thing. The phone rang, interrupting her thoughts. It was her landlord. "Naomi, I'm sorry, but the rent's going up next month. New owners bought the building. There's nothing I can do." She hung up, feeling sick. The new rent would take almost everything she made, and Tommy's tuition payment was due soon. With trembling hands, she wrote back to Dear D, "Your words about meeting sent butterflies through me. I've thought about it too. What you look like, what your voice sounds like, whether we'd recognize something in each other beyond these pages. But life has a way of reminding me of reality. My rent just went up. Tommy's tuition is due. The cafe might be cutting hours. I think maybe these letters have been a beautiful escape, a connection outside my real world. Maybe love, if that's what this is, should come with timing. I'm not sure I can afford the hope right now." Naomi, she mailed it with a heavy heart, wondering if she was ending something before it had really begun. Daniel read Naomi's letter 3 times, his heart sinking with each reading. The connection they'd built over these weeks felt too important to lose. Her words about not being able to afford hope struck him deeply. He'd spent the last year hiding from the world, but now he found himself wanting to step back into it, for her. The next morning, he called his financial advisor for the first time in months. "Mr. Reed, it's good to hear from you," the man said, surprise evident in his voice. "I need information about a property," Daniel said, "a residential building and a cafe called Morning Pages." Within hours, he had his answer. The property had been purchased by a development company called Westbrook Investments. They planned to renovate the building and double the rents, standard practice in gentrifying neighborhoods. What his advisor didn't know was that Westbrook Investments was a subsidiary of Reed Tech Ventures, one of his own companies. He'd purchased it years ago and forgotten about it. He'd accidentally caused Naomi's problems. Daniel sat at his desk, mind racing. He could fix this easily, but how could he explain it to Naomi without revealing who he was? Without making her feel like a charity case, he decided to write back first, to keep their connection alive. "Dear Naomi, don't give up hope yet. Life has a way of surprising us when we least expect it. I understand your worries about Tommy's tuition and your rent. Those are real concerns, but please don't use them as reasons to close yourself off from connection, from possibility. Your letters have become important to me, more important than I expected when I first wrote back to you. I feel like I know you, the real you that maybe even Jason never saw. I want to help, but I'm not sure how without crossing boundaries. For now, just know that I'm here, reading every word, caring about what happens to you. Write to me again. Please." He mailed it immediately, then made another call, this time to his lawyer. "I need you to contact Westbrook Investments. Tell them to halt the rent increases on the Morning Pages building. In fact, Tell them I want to create a 5-year freeze on all rents in that building. May I ask why, Mr. Reed? No, you may not. Just handle it. 3 days later, Naomi found a notice in her mailbox. Due to a change in ownership policies, all planned rent increases for this building have been cancelled. Current rates will remain in effect for a minimum of 5 years. She stared at the paper in disbelief. That same day, a letter from Dee arrived. Naomi, I've been thinking about your poetry, about capturing small moments that others might miss. I've started trying to notice those moments too. Today, I saw an elderly couple holding hands while waiting for the bus. The woman reached up to straighten the man's collar. Such a small gesture, but it told a story of decades of care. I wonder what small moments you noticed today. Naomi sat down immediately to respond, her heart lighter than it had been in days. Dear Dee, a miracle happened today. The rent increase was cancelled. I can hardly believe it. Some kind of ownership change, whatever the reason, it feels like I can breathe again. Your question about small moments made me smile. Today I noticed a young girl at the cafe carefully, arranging her cookies in a perfect circle before eating them. Her mother was on her phone, not watching, but I saw the care she took, the pride in her little ritual. I've been afraid to admit how much your letters mean to me. They're the first thing I think about in the morning and the last thing at night. Is that strange? To feel so connected to someone whose face I've never seen. I take back what I said about not being able to afford hope. Maybe hope is exactly what I need right now. Naomi Daniels smiled when he received her letter. The relief in her words was evident. He hadn't fixed everything. He still needed to figure out a way to help with Tommy's tuition, but it was a start. For the first time in over a year, he felt motivated. He began working again, not just signing off on decisions, but actively engaging with his company. His assistant noticed the change immediately. You seem different, Mr. Reed, she commented during one of their weekly phone meetings. Do I? He asked. Yes. More present. He couldn't tell her that writing letters to a woman he'd never met had somehow brought him back to life. That would sound crazy, but it was true. Meanwhile, Naomi found herself looking forward to the mail delivery each day. Lisa at the cafe noticed her checking the time constantly. Hot date? She teased one afternoon. No, nothing like that, Naomi replied, blushing. Come on, you're practically glowing these days. Someone's making you happy. Naomi smiled. I'm just corresponding with someone, a friend. A friend, huh? Must be some friend to put that look on your face. That evening, as Naomi was writing her latest letter to Dee, Tommy came into the kitchen. Who do you keep writing to? He asked, grabbing a soda from the refrigerator. Just a friend, she said, trying to sound casual. You never used to write letters to anyone. Well, now I do. Tommy sat across from her at the table. Is it a guy? Naomi hesitated. Yes. Do you know him? Not exactly. It's complicated. Tommy frowned. That sounds sketchy, Naomi. You don't even know who this guy is? It's not like that. We just write letters. It's perfectly safe. After what happened with Jason, I don't want to see you get hurt again, Tommy said, his voice softening. Naomi reached across the table and squeezed his hand. I appreciate that, but this is different. Trust me. After Tommy went to his room, Naomi continued her letter. Dee, my brother asked about you today. It made me realize how unusual our situation is. I'm writing intimate thoughts to someone whose last name I don't know, whose face I've never seen, and yet I feel like I know the real you. The you beneath whatever mask you wear for the rest of the world. Sometimes I wonder what would happen if we met. Would we recognize each other somehow? Would the connection we've built on paper translate to real life? Part of me is scared to find out. What if the magic disappears? What if we're better as words on a page than as people face to face? But another part of me can't stop thinking about it. Naomi Daniel received her letter on a rainy Tuesday. He read it sitting by his window, watching the city blur through the raindrops. The question she posed was one he'd been asking himself more and more. What would happen if they met? The thought both thrilled and terrified him. He hadn't had a real conversation with anyone outside his small circle in over a year. What if he froze? What if the anxiety came rushing back? What if he disappointed her? But the alternative, never. Meeting her, letting these letters remain their only connection, felt increasingly impossible. He wrote back, "Naomi, your question has been on my mind too. Would we recognize each other? I think we might, not by face but by something deeper. I understand your fear. I share it. I've been isolated for reasons I haven't fully explained. Meeting you would mean stepping back into a world I've avoided. But when I think about hearing your voice, seeing your smile in person rather than just imagining it, the fear seems worth overcoming. Maybe we start small. A specific time and place, no pressure. If either of us changes our mind, no hard feelings. Think about it. There's no rush." When Naomi received his letter, she felt her pulse quicken. The possibility of meeting him was becoming real. That weekend, she was helping Tommy with his college applications when she noticed him staring at the tuition figures with a worried expression. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Nothing," he said quickly. "Tommy," he sighed, "it's just these numbers. I know you've been saving, but it's so much money." "We'll figure it out," she assured him. "Maybe you'll get a scholarship." "And if I don't?" "Naomi, I can't let you spend everything you have on me. Maybe I should take a year off, work full-time." "Absolutely not," she interrupted. "Education is everything, Tommy. Mum and Dad would want this for you. They wouldn't want you killing yourself working double shifts either." Naomi didn't have an answer for that. Later, after Tommy went to bed, she sat down to write to Dear D. "Tommy is worried about college tuition. I keep telling him it will work out, but honestly, I'm worried too. I've saved what I can, but it's not enough. I'm looking into loans, but with my credit history... Sorry, I don't mean to burden you with my problems. It's just that you're the one person I can be completely honest with. About meeting, yes, I think I'd like that, but I'm nervous too. Could we start with something simple? Maybe coffee. There's a small park across from Morning Pages with benches near the fountain. I sometimes eat lunch there when the weather is nice. This Thursday at noon, if you come, great. If not, I'll understand. No pressure, like you said." Naomi Daniel read her letter with mixed emotions. Joy at her agreement to meet, concern about Tommy's tuition. He wanted to solve her financial problems immediately, but he knew that wasn't what she needed from him. Their connection wasn't based on what he could provide. It was based on understanding and honesty. Still, he couldn't ignore her struggles. After some thought, he made another call to his lawyer. "I want to set up a scholarship fund for deserving students from the neighborhood around Morning Pages Cafe. Make it anonymous. The first recipient should be Tommy Clark. How much per scholarship, Mr. Reed? Full tuition, room and board." With that arranged, he turned his attention to Naomi's invitation. Thursday at noon, 3 days away. The thought made his hands sweat and his heart race. Could he do it? Could he? He stepped back into the world, face to face with the woman whose words had become his lifeline. He went to his closet and looked at the suits he hadn't worn in months. Then he wrote his response. "Naomi, Thursday at noon, the park across from Morning Pages. I'll be there. I'm nervous too, more than I can express. But the thought of meeting you gives me courage I haven't felt in a long time. How will you know me? I'll be holding a copy of The Little Prince." It seemed fitting, a book about seeing what's essential and invisible to the eye. Until Thursday. Thursday. Morning arrived with perfect weather. Sunny but cool, a gentle breeze stirring the air. Naomi could barely focus on her work. Lisa kept teasing her about her distraction. "You're meeting him today, aren't you? Your mystery letter writer?" "Maybe," Naomi admitted. "Well, whoever he is, he's got you walking on air. That's good enough for me." At 11:45, Naomi took her lunch break. She changed out of her cafe uniform into the simple dress she'd brought with her. She brushed her hair, applied a touch of lipstick, and took a deep breath. Across town, Daniel stood in front of his mirror. He'd chosen casual clothes, jeans, and a button-down shirt, no tie. Nothing that screamed CEO. He wanted Naomi to see him, not his wealth or position. He picked up his copy of The Little Prince and headed for the door. For the first time in months, he felt ready to face the world. As noon approached, Naomi sat on a bench near the fountain. Her heart was pounding so hard, she was sure everyone could hear it. She watched people entering the park, wondering which. One was a businessman hurried past, checking his watch. An elderly woman walked her dog slowly along the path. A young couple strolled hand in hand, lost in their own world. And then she saw him, a tall man with dark hair, walking hesitantly into the park. He wore jeans and a blue shirt, and in his hand was a small book with a familiar cover. Naomi stood up, her legs suddenly unsteady. This was it, the moment that would change everything. Daniel saw her at the same moment she saw him. Their eyes met across the park, and everything around them seemed to fade away. For a long moment neither moved. Then slowly he walked toward her. His heart was hammering in his chest. This woman knew his deepest thoughts, his fears, his secrets, everything except his full name and face. Until now. "Naomi?" he asked quietly as he reached her. She nodded, unable to find her voice at first. "Dee," she finally managed. He held up the book. "As promised." "The Little Prince," she smiled, her nervousness beginning to ease. "It's perfect." They sat down on the bench, both acutely aware of the small space between them. "I'm Daniel," he said. "Daniel Reed." "It's nice to finally meet you, Daniel," she replied. "Your handwriting doesn't do you justice." He laughed, surprising himself. When was the last time he'd truly laughed? "Are you disappointed?" he asked, suddenly serious. "Disappointed? No," she shook her head. "Just adjusting. Putting a face to the words I've been reading for weeks." "And does the face match what you imagined?" She studied him for a moment. "No, but that's okay. Reality is better than imagination." They talked for nearly an hour, moving from awkwardness to a comfortable rhythm. Daniel found it easier than he expected. There were no panic attacks, no overwhelming anxiety, just the strange feeling of meeting someone he already knew. "I should get back to work," Naomi said reluctantly, glancing at her watch. "Of course," Daniel nodded. "Thank you for meeting me." "Will you—" She hesitated. "Will you still write to me? If you want me to." "I do," she said quickly. "The letters, they've become important to me." "To me too," he admitted. "But maybe we could also meet again. In person," Naomi smiled. "I'd like that." As she walked back to the cafe, she felt lighter somehow. Daniel was real. Not just words on a page, but a flesh and blood man with kind eyes and a voice that matched the gentleness of his letters. Lisa was waiting when she returned. "Well, how was your mystery man?" "He's nice," Naomi said, unable to keep from smiling. "Nice? That's all I get? Come on, details." "There's not much to tell. We just talked." "Uh-huh. And that's why you're glowing like you swallowed the sun." Back at his penthouse, Daniel felt an unfamiliar energy. Meeting Naomi had broken something loose inside him, some barrier between himself and the world. He sat down to write to her immediately. "Dear Naomi, meeting you today was better than I could have hoped. Your smile is even more beautiful in person than I had imagined. I find myself wanting to tell you everything now, who I am, what I do, all the parts of my life I've kept hidden. But I'm afraid too. Afraid it might change how you see me. For now, can we keep meeting as just Naomi and Daniel? Two people getting to know each other. The rest can come later when the time is right. I want to see you again. When are you free?" Daniel, he hesitated before signing his full name, then decided against it. Some habits were hard to break. Naomi found his letter waiting when she got home that evening. Reading it brought back the flutter in her stomach she'd felt sitting next. To him in the park, she wrote back immediately. "Dear Daniel, today felt like the beginning of something good. I understand your hesitation to share everything at once. We all have parts of ourselves we keep protected. Whatever you want. To tell me whenever you're ready, I'll listen without judgment. I'm free Sunday afternoon. Tommy will be at a friend's house working on a project. We could meet at the cafe, or somewhere else if you prefer. Naomi P.S. I like knowing your name now, but I might still think of you as D sometimes. Hope that's okay." Over the next few weeks, they developed a routine. Letters continued to flow between them, but now they also met twice a week, sometimes at the park, sometimes at a quiet restaurant Daniel knew, occasionally just walking through the neighborhood. Together, Naomi found herself looking forward to these meetings more than anything else in her life. Daniel was unlike any man she'd known, thoughtful, intelligent, and genuinely interested in her dreams and thoughts. What she didn't know was that Daniel was still keeping secrets. Big ones. One evening, as they walked back to her apartment building, after dinner, Tommy came rushing out the front door. "Naomi, you won't believe it," he shouted, waving an envelope. I got the scholarship." "What?" she asked, confused. "This came today, the Wilson Foundation scholarship. Full ride, tuition, room, board, everything." Naomi took the letter from him, reading it in disbelief. "But I don't understand. You didn't apply for this. They say I was nominated by one of my teachers. They must have seen my grades, and who cares? It's a full ride, Naomi." She hugged her brother tightly, her mind racing. This was incredible news, almost too good to be true. Tommy suddenly noticed Daniel standing awkwardly nearby. "Oh, sorry, is this... Tommy, this is Daniel." "Daniel, my brother Tommy." "The letter guy?" Tommy asked bluntly. Daniel smiled. "That would be me." Tommy looked him up and down, then grinned. "Nice to meet you. And hey, perfect timing, we should celebrate. Come up for coffee or something." Before either could respond, Tommy was already heading back inside, still whooping with excitement. "You don't have to," Naomi said quickly. "If you're not comfortable..." "I'd like to," Daniel interrupted, "if that's okay with you." Their small apartment felt different with Daniel in it. His presence somehow made it both smaller and warmer at the same time. Tommy couldn't stop talking about the scholarship. "It's like winning the lottery, I mean the Wilson Foundation. They only give out like 10 of these a year, and they picked me." Daniel nodded, a strange expression on his face that Naomi couldn't quite read. "That's amazing, Tommy. Congratulations." Later, after Tommy went to his room to call friends with his news, Naomi walked Daniel to the door. "Thank you for coming up. That was nice." "Your brother seems great," Daniel said. "So you've done a good job with him." "I try," she shrugged. "This scholarship, it's like a miracle, all our problems solved at once." Something flickered across Daniel's face. Guilt? Unease? But it was gone before she could be sure. Sometimes good. "Things happen when we least expect them," he said. After he left, Naomi sat at the kitchen table, overwhelmed by the day's events. Tommy's scholarship, Daniel meeting her brother, their worlds merging in ways she hadn't anticipated. The next morning at the cafe, she was still distracted by thoughts of Daniel when a customer's newspaper caught her eye. There, on the business page, was a photo that made her freeze. Daniel. In a suit and tie, looking more polished than she'd ever seen him. The headline read, "Reed Tech CEO returns to public eye after year-long absence." She quickly asked to borrow the paper, hands shaking as she read the article. Tech billionaire. Daniel Reed, 39, made his first public appearance in over a year at the Reed Tech charity gala last night. Reed, who stepped back from public duties following what insiders called a mental health crisis, seemed rejuvenated as he announced a new scholarship initiative through the company's charitable foundation, the Wilson Foundation, Tommy's scholarship. Reed Tech, everything fell into place with sickening clarity. Daniel wasn't just Daniel. He was Daniel Reed, CEO and billionaire, and he had secretly arranged Tommy's scholarship without telling her. She felt betrayed, manipulated. All this time, she'd been pouring her heart out to him about her financial struggles, and he'd been what? Pitying her? Playing God with her life? She was so caught up in her thoughts that she didn't notice Lisa watching her with concern. "Naomi, you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." "I'm fine," she said automatically, folding the paper. "Just surprising news." That night she wrote a letter unlike any she'd sent before. "Daniel, or should I say Mr. Reed, CEO of Reed Tech, billionaire philanthropist, I saw your picture in the paper today. Quite a coincidence that your company's foundation just happened to give my brother a full scholarship. Did you enjoy watching me worry about money while you could have solved all my problems with pocket change? I thought what we had was real. I thought you were being honest with me. But you've been manipulating my life from behind the scenes, playing savior without my knowledge or consent. Don't contact me again. Don't try to explain. Some secrets are too big to keep from someone you claim to care about. Goodbye, Naomi. Daniel received her letter the next day. As he read it, the color drained from his face. He'd planned to tell her everything soon, about who he was, about the scholarship, about his feelings for her that had grown stronger with each meeting. But now it was too late. She'd discovered his secret in the worst possible way. He picked up the phone to call her, then remembered he didn't have her number. They'd never exchanged phone numbers, relying on their letters and scheduled meetings instead. He grabbed his keys and headed for Morning Page's cafe. He had to explain, had to make her understand that his deception hadn't been malicious. But when he arrived, Lisa told him Naomi had called in sick. She seemed pretty upset yesterday, Lisa added, eyeing him suspiciously. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you? Daniel tried Naomi's apartment next, but no one answered the door. Defeated, he returned home and wrote her a letter, pouring out everything he'd kept hidden. Naomi, you have every right to be angry. I should have told you who I was from the beginning. I should have been honest about the scholarship. The truth is, I've been hiding from the world for over a year. After my breakdown, I couldn't face anyone, couldn't handle the pressure and expectations. Your letter, that first accidental letter, was the first real human connection I'd felt in months. Yes, I arranged Tommy's scholarship. Yes, I stopped. The rent increase. My company had purchased the building without my knowledge. I did these things not to manipulate you or play God, but because I couldn't bear to see you struggling when I had the means to help. I was afraid to tell you who. I really was, afraid you'd see me differently. Not as Daniel, the man who understood your words and shared your feelings, but as Daniel Reed, the CEO with more money than meaning in his life. I never meant to hurt you. Everything between us, the letters, our meetings, our conversations, all of it was real for me. More real than anything in my life has been for a long time. If you can find it in your heart to forgive me, or at least to listen, I'll be at our bench in the park this Sunday at noon. I understand if you don't come, but I'll be there anyway. Hoping. With deepest regret and even deeper feelings, Daniel, when Naomi received his letter, she read it with tears streaming down her face. The hurt and betrayal were still raw, but beneath them was something else, a longing to believe him, to understand. She didn't know what to do. Part of her wanted to tear up the letter and forget she'd ever met Daniel Reed. Another part remembered the connection they'd built through their letters, the way his words had made her feel seen for the first time in years. Sunday came, and as noon approached, Daniel sat on their bench in the park, a copy of The Little Prince in his hands. He watched every person who entered, hope rising and falling with each one. Naomi stood at the edge of the park, watching him from a distance. He looked different today, vulnerable, uncertain. This was the man from the letters, not the confident CEO from the newspaper photo. She took a deep breath and started walking toward the bench, not yet sure what she would say when she reached him. Daniel's heart nearly stopped when he saw Naomi walking toward him. He stood up, the book clutched tightly in his hands, afraid to hope but unable to stop himself. She stopped a few feet away, her expression guarded. I got your letter. I wasn't sure you'd come, he said softly. Neither was I. She sat down on the bench, leaving space between them. You should have told me the truth, Daniel. He sat beside her, careful to maintain the distance she'd established. I know, I wanted to so many times. Then why didn't you? Daniel stared at the ground, gathering his thoughts. When your first letter came to me by mistake, I was at the lowest point of my life. I hadn't spoken to anyone outside my staff in months. He hesitated, lost. Then I read your words and something changed. I felt connected to someone again. That doesn't explain why you kept lying after we started meeting. At first I was afraid you'd see me differently if you knew who I was. People always do. They see the money, the company, the headlines. Not me. With you for the first time I was just Daniel. Not Daniel Reed, CEO. Naomi shook her head. That wasn't your decision to make. You didn't trust me enough to let me decide how I'd see you. You're right, he admitted. I was selfish and afraid. By the time I realized I should tell you everything, it felt too late. The longer I waited, the harder it became. And Tommy's scholarship? The rent freeze? Were you just playing puppet master with my life? Daniel winced at her words. I never meant it that way. When I found out my company owned your building, that I was unknowingly causing your problems. I had to fix it, and when you wrote about Tommy's tuition worries, I wanted to help. Without asking me, without being honest about it. Her voice was steady, but he could hear the hurt beneath her words. Yes, he nodded. I convinced myself. I was protecting you, but really I was protecting myself. I was afraid of losing you. They sat in silence for a moment, the sounds of the park surrounding them. Children laughing, birds calling, the splash of the fountain. I don't know if I can trust you now, Naomi finally said. Every time you wrote about understanding my struggles, about feeling invisible, you were worth billions. Do you know how that makes me feel? Like a charity case, like our whole connection was built on lies. Not lies, Daniel said urgently. Everything I wrote to you about my feelings, my thoughts, my struggles with anxiety and isolation, all of that was true. Money doesn't protect you from feeling lost or alone. Sometimes it makes it worse. I want to believe you, she whispered. Then give me a chance to prove it. No more secrets. Ask me anything, and I'll tell you the truth. Naomi looked at him for a long moment. If we hadn't met, would you still have helped Tommy? Given him the scholarship? Daniel considered the question carefully. Honestly? Probably not. I wouldn't have known about him. But that doesn't mean the scholarship isn't deserved. Tommy's grades are excellent. He earned it, even if I made sure he received it. And the rent freeze, that I would have reversed no matter what, once I discovered my company was behind it. I never wanted to be the kind of businessman who pushes people out of their homes. For profit, Naomi nodded, absorbing his words. What happens now, Daniel? You live in a penthouse, I work in a cafe. You're in the newspapers. Our worlds are completely different. They don't have to be, he said. These past weeks with you, the letters, our meetings, they've been the most real thing in my life in years. You brought me back to the world, Naomi. I'm not sure I belong in your world. Then I'll come to yours, he said simply, or we can build a new one together. A small smile touched her lips. It's not that simple. It can be, if we want it to be. Before she could respond, her phone rang. She checked it and frowned. It's Tommy? I should take this. Daniel nodded, watching as she answered the call. Her expression quickly changed from annoyance to concern. What? Slow down, Tommy. What do you mean they cancelled it? She listened for a moment, her face paling. No, that doesn't make sense. The letter said, Okay, I'll be right there. She hung up, looking stunned. What happened? Daniel asked. Tommy just got a call from the college. They said there's been a mistake. There is no Wilson Foundation scholarship. The award letter was sent in error. Daniel felt his blood run cold. That's impossible. I set it up myself. Well, something went wrong. Naomi stood up, gathering her purse. I need to go. Tommy's devastated. Let me come with you, Daniel said, rising. I can fix this. You've done enough, she replied sharply, then softened. Please, Daniel, I need to handle this myself. He watched helplessly as she walked away, the space between them growing with each step. Back at her apartment, Naomi found Tommy pacing the living room, his face etched with disappointment. They said they never heard of the Wilson Foundation, he explained, that there must have been some mix-up, all that excitement for nothing. Naomi hugged her brother tightly. We'll figure this out, Tommy. I promise. Maybe it was some kind of sick joke, he said bitterly. Who does that? Gives someone hope and then takes it away? His words hit Naomi hard, reminding her of her thoughts about Daniel. Had she judged him too harshly, or not harshly enough? That evening, as Tommy retreated to his room to call friends with the bad news, Naomi sat at the kitchen table with a blank piece of paper. She started to write to Daniel, then stopped, uncertain. What to say? The doorbell rang, startling her. When she opened it, Daniel stood there, looking tired but determined. I'm sorry to come unannounced, he said, but I had to tell you in person. There was no mistake with Tommy's scholarship. Someone deliberately cancelled it. What? Who would do that? My brother, Alexander. Daniel's voice was tight with anger. He's been trying to take control of the company while I've been absent. When I started coming back, making decisions again, he got worried. This was his way of striking back. Using my brother? Using us? Naomi felt sick. I've already fixed it. Tommy's scholarship is reinstated. Alexander has been removed from the board. It's done. He handed her an official letter confirming the scholarship. "Thank you," she said, genuinely grateful despite her confusion about everything else. "May I come in? Please. There's more I need to explain." She hesitated, then stepped aside to let him enter. They sat on the small sofa, the scholarship letter between them. "My brother found out about you," Daniel explained, "about our letters. He thought you were the reason I was coming back to the company, reclaiming my position. He wasn't entirely wrong." "I don't understand. Why would our letters matter to your company?" "Because they mattered to me." Daniel's voice softened. "Before your letter arrived by mistake, I was barely functioning. The anxiety, the pressure of running Reed Tech, it had broken me. I was hiding from the world, making decisions by email, avoiding all human contact." He continued, "Then I read your words, about feeling invisible, about raising yourself back up after being knocked down, about taking care of Tommy even when it was hard. Your strength, it inspired me. Each letter made me want to try again, to step back into the world, eventually to meet you." "So you fixed my problems because I fixed yours?" Naomi asked uncertainly. "No," Daniel shook his head. "I tried to help with your problems because I care about you. The way you helped me was unintentional on your part, but no less meaningful. Your words, your courage, your kindness, they reached me when nothing else could." Tommy emerged from his bedroom, surprised to see Daniel. "Hey, what's going on?" "Good news," Naomi said, handing him the letter. "The scholarship is back on. It was just a misunderstanding." Tommy read the letter, his face lighting up. "For real? This isn't another mistake?" "It's real," Daniel assured him. "I guarantee it." As Tommy whooped with joy, Naomi watched Daniel's face. There was honesty there and vulnerability, but also strength she hadn't fully appreciated before. Later, after Tommy went to bed, Naomi and Daniel sat at the kitchen table with cups of tea between them. "I'm still trying to process all this," she admitted. "The billionaire CEO thing, the scholarship drama, your brother's revenge plot. It's a lot." "I know," Daniel said. "And I don't expect you to forgive me right away for not being honest with you. But I hope you'll give me a chance to earn back your trust." "What exactly are you asking for, Daniel?" He reached across the table, not quite touching her hand. "A new beginning. No secrets this time. Just two people who connected through words on a page and might find something even more meaningful face to face." Naomi studied him. "I need time to think about everything." "I understand." He nodded, standing to leave. At the door, he paused. "One last thing. I've been carrying this with me, waiting for the right moment." He pulled an envelope from his pocket and handed it to her. "Read it when you're ready." After he left, Naomi opened the envelope. Inside was the first letter she'd ever written, the one meant for Jason that had started everything. Along with it was a note in Daniel's handwriting. "Naomi, keep this. Proof that your words found someone who needed them. If you're willing to try. Again, I'll be at the cafe across the street from the park this Thursday at 4:00. No pressure, just possibility. Yours, Daniel." 3 days later, Naomi stood at the window of Morning Pages, watching the cafe across the street. It was Thursday, 3:55 p.m. Lisa noticed her distraction. "Waiting for someone?" "Maybe," Naomi replied. "This wouldn't be tall, dark and handsome from the park, would it?" Naomi smiled. "It might be. So what's the hold-up? You've been staring at that cafe for 10 minutes. "It's complicated," Naomi sighed. "He kept things from me. Big things." "Deal breakers?" Lisa asked. "That's what I'm trying to figure out." Lisa patted her shoulder. "Look, I don't know what happened between you two, but I haven't seen you this alive in years. Not since before Jason left. Whatever this guy did, he also put that spark back in your eyes." At exactly 4:00, Naomi saw Daniel enter the cafe across the street. He chose a table by the window, visible from where she stood. He placed a book on the table, The Little Prince, and waited. "Your shift ended 5 minutes ago," Lisa pointed out, "just saying." Naomi took a deep breath, untied her apron, and made her decision. The bell above the door jingled as she entered the cafe across the street. Daniel looked up, hope and uncertainty battling in his expression. When he saw her, he stood. "You came," he said simply. "I'm still angry with you," she told him. and I still have questions. I'll answer all of them honestly this time." She sat down across from him. "I found something when I was cleaning out my dresser yesterday, my old poetry notebook. I wrote something after your first letter arrived." She slid a folded paper across the table. Daniel opened it carefully. "Read it," she encouraged. He cleared, his throat softly. "Sometimes words find their way home like birds returning after winter, not to the hands that released them, but to hearts prepared to receive them." As he read her poem, Naomi watched his face. This man had lied to her, had kept secrets, had arranged parts of her life without her knowledge. But he had also seen her, truly seen her, through nothing more than words on a page. When he finished reading, their eyes met across the table. The journey ahead wouldn't be simple. Trust would need to be rebuilt. Worlds would need to merge. But in that moment, with her poem in his hands and the afternoon sun streaming through the window, Naomi knew they would try. "I'm not promising anything," she said, "but I'm willing to start over." Daniel smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. "That's all I'm asking for." He placed his hand on the table, palm up. After a moment's hesitation, Naomi placed her hand in his. Outside, people passed by the cafe window, unseeing. But inside, two people who had found each other through a misdirected letter began writing a new chapter together, word by word, moment by moment, heartbeat by heartbeat. Tommy received his official scholarship package the following week. As he sorted through the materials, he found a small note tucked inside. "Sometimes mistakes lead us exactly where we need to go." He didn't know what it meant, but he noticed his sister smiling more these days. He noticed a lightness in her step that hadn't been there before, and he noticed how her face lit up whenever she received a letter with now familiar handwriting. Only these letters were signed with a full name, no more secrets between them. 6. Months later, Naomi stood in the doorway of a small storefront, keys in her hand. The sign above the door read, "Chapter 1 Books and Cafe." Daniel stood beside her, his arm around her waist. "I still can't believe this is happening," she said, looking at the space that would soon become the bookstore she'd always dreamed of. "Owning, believe it," Daniel smiled. "You did this, I just helped with the paperwork." "And the funding," she reminded him, "which you're going to let me pay back as we agreed." "Every penny," he nodded, "though I still think it's unnecessary." "It's necessary to me," she insisted. "This has to be mine. Something I built." "I understand," he said. And she knew he did. In the months since they'd begun again, he'd worked hard to understand her independence, her pride, her need to make her own way, even while sharing her life with him. Inside her purse was the latest letter he'd written. They still wrote to each other, even though they spoke daily, saw each other almost nightly. Some things were still easier to say on paper, where they'd first found each other. That evening they celebrated the new store with Tommy and Lisa. As they toasted with champagne, Tommy raised his glass higher. "To mistakes that turn out to be exactly what we need," he said, echoing the note he'd found months ago. Later, as Daniel walked Naomi home, snow began to fall gently around them. He stopped beneath a streetlight, turning to face her. "I have something for you," he said, pulling a small package from his coat pocket. An early store-warming gift. Naomi unwrapped it to find a beautiful leather-bound journal. Inside, on the first page, was a familiar handwriting. "For new chapters, new stories, new beginnings. All my love, Daniel." She looked up at him, snow catching in her hair and eyelashes. "Thank you." "There's something else," he said, his voice suddenly nervous. "Another gift if you want it." He reached into his pocket again and pulled out a small velvet box. Naomi's breath caught as he opened it, revealing a simple but elegant diamond ring. "Naomi Clark," he said softly, "your words found me when I was lost. Your heart showed me the way back to myself. Would you do me the honor of becoming my wife?" The snow fell silently around them as she looked from the ring to his hopeful face. Their journey had been unusual from the start. A misdirected letter, secrets revealed, trust broken and rebuilt. But through it all, one thing had remained constant: the connection they'd formed through words that somehow found their way exactly where they needed to go. Yes, she whispered, as he slipped the ring onto her finger. Yes. They walked the rest of the way home hand in hand, their footprints marking a path through the freshly fallen snow, two separate trails merging into one, leading toward a future they would write together. The end.